Here.
Here.
Here. Here. I'm going to open up the floor to public comment. So if you are here wishing to speak on anything that's not on our agenda tonight, I will give you the floor. All right, if nothing, then we'll move on. We have a new gentleman in the back there, I see. He's going to start helping us out with the filming and the live streaming, and so it's Noah, right? Yes, it is. Well, thank you for being here, and give us a hand signal if we get too quiet or if we're doing things. I think we're kind of working on some microphone items, and so we just want to make sure that anyone watching on a live stream is picking us up okay, and so we can follow up with that. But welcome, Noah. Thank you for being here. Council, you've got the agenda in front of you tonight. There was one item brought to my attention that we want to look at adding to tonight's agenda, and that'll be for an off-sale liquor license for Casey's. We can add that item 14 under new business. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to amend in tonight's agenda? If not, then I'll look for a motion to approve our amended agenda tonight.
I'll motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. And that carries. And then in your packet, beginning on page 3, you've got the minutes of our March 1st meeting. Did anyone see anything that they would like to have corrected in those minutes? If not, then I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes of the March 1st meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. Then beginning on page 9 of your packet, we've got our consent agenda tonight. Does the council wish to have anything pulled for further discussion? Just a note that this will include a resignation letter from one of our fire department members, and so we thank him for his service, and that'll be included in tonight's consent agenda. If no one has anything else, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda tonight.
I'll motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. So we'll jump into a couple of presentations we have tonight. Brian Sarf is here with us again from Bolton and Mink with an update here on the Agency Street, County State Aid Highway 27 project. And so, Brian, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. So a few things I wanted to touch base on this evening. First of all, we did open bids on our agency project. I believe it was last Wednesday. And hopefully in your packet you'll see some information on that. I guess just as a recap or a summary, we did get 3 prime bidders to bid on the project. Their bids range from roughly $2.4 million up to $2.8, $2.9 million, which was, all of the bids were a little bit below the engineer's estimate. As we look at city share, the low bidder at this time, the apparent low bidder, Dirt Merchant, is at $1.4 million, roughly. So I guess next step in this process, if the city sees fit, would be to essentially accept the bid and terms of the city, on the city's behalf. Um, The county is the contracting agency for this particular project, so the city won't be awarding it per se, but certainly the city has a lot of skin in the game, and that's just the next process. And as we partner with the county, we'd be looking to accept the bid. The county has a board meeting on the 13th, I believe, and at that time, they'll be looking to award the contract to Dirt Merchant, barring any unforeseen item there. So I guess before I move on, is there any questions about the bid results or that process? Let's go forward.
You've vetted the bidders, any items that were of concern, or?
No, no items of concern. We've worked with Dirt Merchant quite a bit on projects like this. No issues in terms of that.
Did they have any concern over product availability? That seems to be the problem that we're having now, is just making sure the products will arrive on time for construction. So any products that are difficult lead time items for them?
I haven't heard specifically in terms of what Dirt Merchant's up against. I know one product in particular I've heard of is PVC pipe. There's kind of a shortage. I did not necessarily see that reflected in the bid prices, but I haven't heard, I guess, in specific scheduling issues.
Any other council questions?
Okay, well, yeah, I think there's a resolution later on in the meeting here with regards to accepting the bid. Another thing I wanted to touch base on was kind of an updated schedule for the project as it relates to construction and the special benefit analysis. So this special benefit analysis, we've been long awaiting it, and it's still not here. They've had some issues with their schedule and delivering it. But we have been in contact with Patch and Messner Brum, who's doing the special benefit consultation, and they do expect to have that next month. In terms of the 429 process, there's no problem in pushing back the assessment hearing by another month. You can certainly have that special assessment hearing in December if you wanted to. Not according to the original schedule, but we are looking at pushing back the assessment schedule, the hearing, by approximately 1 month due to kind of the delay in getting that special benefit analysis. And I guess the next steps for that is once we do get that in hand, we are looking to maybe schedule a work session to kind of talk through the numbers that they provide and kind of the next steps and as we prepare the final assessment roll. I guess another scheduling item to mention, although the project has not been awarded, we were made aware that CenterPoint Energy is starting to look at doing some relocations that are required for the project. Sometime in the next couple of weeks was the last I heard that they were looking to start, and we have started to communicate with residents in terms of that piece of the schedule. So although officially the contract, our contractor is not authorized to do any work yet, some of the private work as it relates to private utilities will be commencing shortly here. So that's what I have to say about schedule. One other item with regards to the Agency Street project I did want to follow up on. There was some discussion last meeting about lighting, street lighting. We did just do a little bit of research, touching base with Excel on that. So currently there are lights out there on the wood poles approximately every third light, or excuse me, approximately every third pole has a light currently. So we asked, if it's a possibility to add lights to some or any of the other poles, and they said, yes, that's certainly an option. They did provide some cost estimate for that, and apparently at this time it seems like they only charge per fixture, and that's a monthly rate. There's no upfront charge, if you will, and that was $10 each per month. So right now there's 8 poles with lights out there. If we were to add lights to every single pole that doesn't have a light on South Agency, that would be 9 poles. There's also one spot where there isn't a pole that we kind of identified as a potential spot to add a pole, and they also said that they'd be willing to work with the city on that to add a pole if it were something that the city wanted to move ahead on. So those are the items I have tonight for you. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those at this time.
Brian, what are we looking at for timing once it's awarded? Are we still looking at May, June? I mean, do you have any idea on when they're looking at starting the whole project then?
We don't have a firm idea at this point, since we haven't awarded them, but shortly after award, we'll be scheduling a pre-construction meeting with Dirt Merchant, assuming they get the bid, and we will know more at that point. Usually, I would say it's roughly about a month to sign the contracts, get some of the initial paperwork done, so we're talking maybe mid-May as a general rule of thumb.
Brian, in talking about lighting, is that something that we could identify the current foot candle levels now versus what they might be if we did add lights to each pole? And then that could be a discussion item at our work session.
Sure, yep. So you'd like us to evaluate the photometrics a little bit?
Right. I
Okay.
think that would be good.
Okay.
And then, again, we've got residents here that are very interested in kind of that assessment hearing, so we're looking at probably not May, but June would be the assessment hearing timeline. So if we get the report in here in the next month, we can kind of review that. Is that what you're thinking?
Correct.
As far as schedule?
Yep, the hope is to get it, in the second half of April. We can regroup, talk about it, make sure the city kind of understands how they want to proceed in terms of calculating, possibly calculating an alternate assessment calculation. And then the idea would be to have that meeting in advance of the May meeting, and at that point, we would call for, we declare the amount to be assessed and call for the hearing in June.
Any other questions from the council? All right, then our next action on this will be item 1 in our new business. So if you have nothing further then, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to Shannon to talk to us about financing and all those fun things.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Shannon Sweeney with David Drown Associates. We've taken the information that you've just received from your engineer and used that to develop a plan of finance by working with your city staff. Ultimately, we have construction, engineering, and contingency costs that total about $1.8 million for the city's share of the project. When we add in underwriting fees for a competitive sale, finance, legal, rating agency expense, and a little bit of capitalized interest, we're looking at a total project cost of $1,896,000. As part of our recommendation for the finance of the project, we're suggesting the use of about $600,000 in cash to reduce the amount that you borrow. When we evaluated both the sanitary sewer fund and the city's general fund, we felt they could make similar contributions to the project without jeopardizing the financial health of the city. They both had adequate reserves to make such a contribution and, again, reduce the overall amount that we're borrowing. With that, our recommendation was for the issuance of $1,295,000 in GO bonds. We included a preliminary cash flow that shows debt service payments averaging about $100,000 per year for a 15-year term. It includes a combination of tax levy, water revenues, special assessments, and storm sewer revenues in order to make the project cost or make the debt service payments. Recognize that at this point we've used the projected special assessments to reduce the tax levy component associated with the street portion of the project cost. We have no sewer contribution because of the sewer fund's cash contribution to pay its share of the project cost. Water revenues, we're relying on about $40,000 per year. In discussing, Jennifer provided some information earlier today indicating that you were on track with some recommendations we made with regard to utility rates in 2018, so I expect that we're pretty close to be able to make that contribution to the debt service. So ultimately, those are the sources of repayment that we're intending to use. It's, again, about a $11,000, $12,000 hit on tax levy. That's after special assessments are used to reduce the contribution for streets. Recognize the street component of the project cost is about $800,000, so it's a significant portion. So those assessments are rather important for buying down that tax levy and helping to make the project affordable. As a part of this process, we have a series of recommendations. We do recommend that we sell the bonds competitively, meaning we develop an offering document, we purchase a credit rating, we take bids on the purchase of your bonds, and we present those to the city council at your May 3rd meeting. Ultimately, all this happens if you choose to award the project, which is your first item on the agenda. If you decide not to, you can disregard everything I say. So, ultimately, the city carries a very good credit rating, and that credit rating is what buys us a lower interest rate by a significant margin versus not rating the issue. Again, we have recommended the use of $600,000 in cash, and ultimately, if you choose to award the project, we would recommend that financing be implemented to get the financing costs associated with the project fixed as quickly as possible. Once you're on the hook for paying construction costs, we like to see our clients essentially have a fixed interest rate on their financing as soon as they can. Interest rates are very low. Ultimately, what I projected in here, and it was a conservative projection, was at 1.87% over that 15-year term. I would tell you that the market has been moving not in our favor in the last 2 weeks, and so ultimately, if we can get an interest rate fixed sooner than later, I think we'll be in good shape. More than happy to answer questions on our recommendation. On your regular agenda is a resolution that initiates the sale process, and again, it's a competitive sale of bonds where we're taking bids on the city's behalf, presenting those to you on May 3rd for a closing on or about June 1st. So, happy to answer questions, Mayor and Council.
What other bonds do we have out at this time, and what's the interest rate on those?
I don't recall them off the top of my head. We have looked at them to see if there's any candidates for refinance. We haven't identified any that were ripe for refinancing at the same time.
So the biggest commitment then at this point is committing the cash from the various funds to make this work. If we were to move forward with your proposal, we're looking at that $1,295,000 sale. That's
cash. Given how often you do projects and go to market, we didn't think it was jeopardizing your cash position for any significant future needs that are coming along quickly. And so if we can reduce the amount we borrow, we thought that was a good thing.
And Shannon, I don't know if you have any additional information, or Jennifer, if you've gone to any additional meetings in regard to this next investment fund or whatever that's
The
coming
CARES Act.
forward. The CARES Act kind of
Yeah.
dollars and what that,
There hasn't
might
been
mean.
anything definitive. They talk about being able to make investments in infrastructure, but most of the administrators I've worked with so far haven't seen enough definition as to what that
Right.
means yet to commit that cash to a current project. It's not to say you might not be able to. Ultimately, you may choose to use that funding instead of the cash contribution that's proposed. If CARES Act funding is available and you determine that's the most appropriate need, you could certainly do that.
so if we were to go out and get bids for the 1.295, and in the next month or two, there was more information that came out about that, is there a way to reduce that sale, or are we locked in at that amount?
No, once we've sold, we're locked in. It would be more a matter of, do you want to replace the $600,000 from the sewer fund and leave it there in your general fund and use this CARES Act funding and keep that money available for other projects that you might want to use cash with absolutely no strings attached.
Right, okay. All right, anyone else have any further questions? Well, thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
We'll jump into our new business then and kind of relook at all these questions. So the very first item that we have is the resolution on page 41. This is the resolution accepting bids and awarding a contract for the agency street reconstruction project. Kind of looks like at least things are lining up in our favor as far as the bids and some of the potential financing components. By moving forward with the resolution, again, as Brian said, we're not actually awarding the contract. That'll come from the county board meeting on Tuesday the 12th. But this will be our support shown to them. So are there any questions in regard to the resolution? I misspoke. It was on page 42 of the packet. No questions? Then I'd look for a motion to approve resolution 2021-12.
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that carries. Secondary to that resolution, then you have in your packet is an agreement with Blue Earth County, cooperative construction agreement, starting on page 46 of your packet. And this was prepared by Blue Earth County for us to partner with them on the project. Jennifer, is there anything that you would like to add in regard to the agreement?
You know, Mayor and City Council, the only thing, I just want to let you know, I did have legal counsel review the agreement. There were no issues noted, and Brian Sarf, our engineer, also reviewed just to make sure the splits were correct. And he had caught something on the initial review and sent it back to the county, and it was revised. So other than that, I don't have anything to add. Just need a motion to approve that.
Okay. Anyone have any questions in regard to the agreement there in the packet?
I have a question on, it's gonna be, what, a 10-ton road, and built pretty heavy? does the city pick up a certain percentage of that, or do we have to pay whatever we need city-wise, or how does that work? You know what I'm saying?
I think so. So how
But I
it's,
don't.
the project is broken out into 3 categories, which would be road, street type surface,
Yeah.
storm sewer, and then the city-only sewer water type items. So how the street piece of it was broken out was it was based on a 60-year life. Since we're kind of rebuilding in advance of the full 60-year life, they use that ratio. I can't remember now. I think the county's picking up 63% of those costs. And that's, I guess, how the share is happening in terms of the street piece of it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
All right, any other questions? If there are none, then I'd look for a motion to approve the mayor and the administrator to sign the cooperative construction agreement with Blue Earth County.
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. All right, so the next item then, maybe have a little bit more discussion, is in regard to competitive sale of the bonds at the amount of $1,295,000. And again, as Shannon presented to us in his report, this does include some cash from city funds and reserves. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments in regard to the sale of these bonds? So interest rates are creeping up just a little bit.
Could I ask a question, Mayor? And just, could you confirm, Shannon, when that first debt service payment is due? Is it in '22 or '23? Just wanted to clarify that.
We have to rely on collection of property taxes and special assessments in 2022 for a first principal payment February 1st of '23. So we're giving ourselves that window of time, but we are assuming that assessments are certified this fall for collection in 2022. The tax levy that's included as part of this at approximately 15 grand a year, it would be a levy set this fall for collection in '22 for a payment February 1st of '23, just to be clear.
Any other questions? There again, we'd be looking at a 15-year term. And we have to wait until 2028 then if we want to prepay?
Mayor, if we shorten it any quicker than that, we would pay a slight interest rate penalty.
Sure.
It's usually anywhere from 0.5 to 0.1% when you bring it down below that level. And so if it was important, you know, that you wanted that flexibility, we could certainly build it in, but recognize it would impact the rate a little bit.
All right. Yeah, and I was just thinking in regard to this mysterious pot of money that may or may not be there, that
Sure.
if there was a way to pay down early or things like that, that would.
Sure.
So that was just my only thought. I just did note that you've got 2028. And we've done some prepayments, but it's typically always been after that call date. So
Yep.
I think that's just how that's been working. questions? Noah, how are we doing on sound?
Well, Mayor, we did get a notification from somebody that's watching at home that did say they're having difficulty hearing, so we'll all just have to try, myself included, to get right up to that mic and
Right.
make sure that we are being heard.
So you have in your packet, beginning on page 59, Resolution 2021-13. And this is the resolution then providing for the competitive negotiated sale of those bonds, again in the amount of $1,295,000. So if there's no other questions, I look for a motion on Resolution 2021-13.
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion, is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. So by our May 3rd meeting, we'll have result of that sale and. Okay. Very good, thank you. Anything else on Agency Street project? So I know we've got residents here concerned with the assessments. So as we receive our report, kind of on our third-party review of what some of the valuations look like, as the city council then reviews that, if we have a work session, we can talk about just how we want to proceed with our assessment policy. And so we'll keep you in tune with where that's at. And then we'd be looking at a June hearing where everybody would see what those numbers are per property to take a look at, right? So if there's any other information we can provide residents, I guess I'd look for that as well.
Yeah, I guess just to clarify, so after, if things went according to schedule here after the May 3rd meeting, we would shortly after that send notifications to residents. Golly, I can't remember the timelines. It's, 3 or 4 weeks that we need to get that in advance to them. So they would get noticed well in advance of the assessment hearing.
All right. So just so everyone's aware that that information will be forthcoming. And again, the council is very interested in, working with our residents. We know that it is, from our initial proposed policy assessment rates, pretty shocking. So we certainly understand what that means to people, and we'll be working with you on that. So just be assured that we'll be taking a look at it. I'm too quiet? All right. Anything else then on the Agency Street project?
Mayor, if I may ask a question of Brian, looking at the latest email from the special benefit analysis consultant, would it be fair to say, do you think that we should plan to have a special meeting sometime that week of the 26th of April before that May 3rd meeting? I wonder if that's something we could just look at talking about now, getting scheduled.
Yeah, it appears that's probably the same. It's kind of cutting it a little short, but I'm not sure there's any issue with that. If we schedule it for that last week of April,
Okay.
We should, according to what they're telling us now, we should have that report in hand.
Okay. The latest, we initially thought it was going to be April 19th we'd have the report, and then we found out it's going to be April 23rd, so I'm thinking the soonest we're going to be able to have that special meeting then would be the week of the 26th. So, not that it has to be set right now, but I just wanted to let you know the latest that we had heard from the special benefit analysis consultant this afternoon.
So then we can tentatively set that up and then kind of determine as
Right.
it
Might
gets
just want to
closer
pencil it in our calendar.
All right. Remind me the date again so I can put it in.
Monday, April 26th. I mean, it could be any day that week, but I think that would be safe to assume that we could have a special meeting at the earliest on the 26th.
Okay. Any other questions then on Agency Street? Roger?
Hi, Roger Beckel, 308 South Agency Street. Is that special meeting open to the public?
Yes, all meetings are open to the public, so
Okay,
yep,
perfect.
you would be
So
invited
there would
to
be
attend.
some kind of an informative letter sent out letting us know.
Yeah, and that's something city staff could send out notice following tonight's meeting to all the affected properties, just letting them know we're about a month behind, and we appreciate your patience, and just look for that information coming in the mail.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. All right, then moving on, we have item number 4, page 68. And this is a resolution accepting a resignation on the council. And so Mr. Terrell has served the city for approximately 19 years and is now moving out of the city limits. And so tonight will be his final meeting with us. And so if we accept the resolution 2021-14,
You get rid of me.
we'll keep you on till the end. But this will accept his resignation and then declare that a vacancy exists on the council. Any questions from the council in regard to resolution 2021-14? Would anyone like to make the motion?
All motion.
You rotten.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Only thing I would discuss is just thanking Denny for everything he's done in the 18, 19 years that he's been in it, 19 years, and everything that he'll probably still provide to you, like, with him and his family. So, Denny, thank you.
Thank you.
And after we run through our business, I do have a plaque here, and so we'll get you stood up and get a picture and stuff, Denny, and we'll send you on your way. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. Moving on then, we've got an agreement with Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus. And this is an agreement for the sale of the excess fire truck, the 1995 fire truck. Jennifer, do you have anything that you would like to give us for background here?
The truck has been listed for sale, so this is kind of retroactive. The council directed staff back in August to get pricing, get this truck listed since it was taken out of service. And so the fire department has worked with Brindley Mountain. It's been listed since March 10th. There's pictures online. So far, no offers have been received, but the reason it's on the agenda tonight is to get council approval, because once an offer comes in, we want to be able to have permission to be able to move forward with that. And so included in the packet is an agreement with Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus, and just need a motion to approve that.
Any questions from the council? If not, then I'll look for a motion to approve the agreement with Brindley Mountain.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. Item number 6, under new business, Planning Commission recommendation for a conditional use permit. This begins on page 73 of your packet. Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you to give us a little background.
Sounds great. Mayor and City Council, we received an application for a conditional use permit for parcel R1209124760005, also referred to as 107 598th Avenue by Borg's Homes. It's for the purpose of constructing a facility to offer designer doodles, puppy training classes, grooming services, doggy daycare with boarding facilities, and a showroom filled with dog products, and an on-staff vet or vet technician. The parcel is currently located in a B1 community business district. Since the proposed use is not specifically classified and permitted for a B1 district, the conditional use permit was sought due to the proposed use being of the same general character as permitted and conditional uses and not detrimental to the existing uses and to the general public health, safety, and welfare. We mailed notices to all properties within 350 feet of the parcel. 2 property owners participated in the public hearing at the Planning Commission meeting. One of the property owners asked about whether there would be a fence and proposed location and whether there would be turf and proposed drainage plans. And another property owner expressed concern with ag land being adjacent to the facility and a concern for the dogs when spraying occurs and at harvest time with dust. It was discussed with the property owner and the representative of the buyer of the parcel that the parties would just work together when spraying is scheduled to occur and at harvest time for those concerns. So following the public hearing, the Planning Commission made a recommendation to allow the conditional use permit with the following provisions: soundproofing of walls, weekly pickup of fecal waste from the site, odor-proof containers for fecal waste storage, any ongoing fence repair and maintenance that would be needed, rodent-proof food containers, a ventilation system, surprise inspections, and that the sleeping quarters would only be used as for no longer than a period of back up here. The sleeping quarters are not allowed to be used as a residence or for a period of time in excess of 7 consecutive days. And also that the entire business must be enclosed with the exception of limited use to walk or train the dogs in the outdoor fenced-in area. So with that background, there's also the Planning Commission minutes and some other supporting informational items that was attached to the packet. One of the things in there just shows the location of the parcel on a map, and then a copy of the B1 Community Business District and permitted uses. So with that, I would just ask the council to consider approving the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve the conditional use permit request.
All right. Does council have any questions?
Now, what did you say about residents? Is there any place for
So-
somebody to live there?
So there would be some sleeping quarters in there for like a vet or a vet tech. So when the puppies.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the Planning Commission recommendations for the CUP request. Any discussion? I think this is a great opportunity for the city, and so I think. Continuing on, item number 7, and this is a rental license agreement with property owner at 404.
Corrective action. We sent a letter to the property owner, and he was given until June 13th, 2021 to correct those items. The property owner did come in and talk to me and inform that his plans are to demolish the structure in December of 2021. He did provide a copy of an agreement between himself and a construction company for the demolition of that structure. And, you know, after talking with the building inspector, and also I consulted with legal counsel, I guess the reason this is being brought to your attention this evening is, you know, rather than making the property owner go to the expense of making these repairs, which are largely cosmetic, it's still safe to live in. So we tried to work with the property owner and come up with an agreement here that will allow him to continue using as a rental property with the plan that it be demolished in December. And the plan then would be to have new single-family home construction in place of that structure. And if the property owner does not comply, then the rental license would be revoked. So the city attorney put together some provisions, and I'll just quickly read through those, and we'll put those together in agreement if the council approves this evening. The property owner would need to agree to an inspection of the interior of the home if deemed appropriate, agree that any repairs that are necessary to protect the health and safety of the tenants would have to be made immediately, Agree that the property either needs to be brought up to code or demolished by no later than March 1st, 2022. Agree that if the property is not brought up to code, that the tenant shall be required to exit the property at the end of their lease and under no circumstances not later than December 31st, 2021. And agree that if the property is not brought up to code or demolished by March 1st, 2022, that the property owner consents to the city making the repairs or having the repairs made to the property with the property owner being billed for the costs of the repairs. And then attached to the memo I sent out here is just where the parcel is located along agency, and then also some pictures of some of the exterior items needing corrective action. So with that, just asking the city council to consider working with the property owner and entering into an agreement with those provisions.
Has the property owner been asked if those provisions are acceptable to them?
Yes, yep. I've talked to him a couple times, and he is agreeable to those provisions, as I understand it.
All right, any questions from the council?
I guess my question is, once the license gets, if the license gets revoked, then what? Is he still gonna demolish it? Is it just gonna sit there, or what, do we have a plan for that?
You know, I don't know, we'd have to look into the legalities of whether or not the city could require a structure to be demolished, you know, unless it's, you know, deemed unsafe, but, you know, as far as the rental license is concerned, and that's why this is brought up, because the city does license them, they would not be allowed to rent out the structure until those improvements would be made. But as far as if that rental license is revoked and the city's ability to say you have to demolish a structure, I'd have to research that. I don't know what our you know, what kind of teeth we'd have in that realm.
I hope it doesn't happen, but just something to think about.
Well, it looks like the fifth provision would allow the city to make repairs and the property owner, so at least then it would be brought up to code at that point, and then we can make a decision with how to move forward.
I know the conversations I've had or heard that I've had with someone that knows him is he was planning on demoing it when he moved away from it, but then someone wanted to rent it. So I don't foresee it ever being a problem once we get to that point, from what I've heard in behind the scene conversations.
Okay.
I know he's got different plans for those lots there.
I guess my question would be is it, because they have that building on there, is that still a commercial building that is there, running commercial? Would it stay commercial? Is it split to two and to be residential, or it's all up to the homeowner at that point, what he wants to do?
So he'd have to apply for rezoning. Right now, you know, nothing's been changed with the zoning. It's just one parcel. He'd have to go through, you know, request to have the lot split, and so, and he's aware of that too.
Yeah.
I believe he's working with and possibly an engineer or a contractor on that.
All right, any other questions? If not, this seems like a reasonable kind of a temporary fix to a long-term plan here, so I'd look for a motion to authorize entering into an agreement to spell out the above listed conditions in the administrator's report on page 85.
I'd make that motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. Continuing on then, item 8, pricing for playground base materials and installation. Page 93 of your packet.
Mayor and City Council, I will just give a brief overview, and I think, you know, Councilmember Rourke has really been kind of spearheading this process, and she's been the most involved in conversing with the installers, the different reps, contractors, and also Brian, like his input tonight too on some different things that the Public Works might be able to do with the Parks project. So if it's okay, I'll just kind of give an overview quick, and then I'll turn it over if we can discuss it more in detail. So attached to the memo in the packet here is pricing for the remaining Phase 1 Parks project work. And just as a reminder to everybody, that includes the new Eagle Heights Park and also new equipment that will be placed at Lake Eagle Park. And then included with that, it's not just equipment, it's the base and grading work and edging. So there's, a lot of other details that we'll get into here in just a little bit. But one of the things I wanted to note that Beth will talk about more is that Brian and I have talked with the League of Minnesota Cities previously, and we right now have P-rock as our base material, and that's something that we'll talk about in more detail here that needs to be replaced. And so the existing P-rock is not compliant and does need to be replaced. So that is one of our priorities. And then we've got the cost for grading, equipment installation, base material, edging installation, and other items totaling about $72,000 to be paid for the Parks Capital Outlay Fund. And then attached here, you'll see kind of where that brings us once we expend that approximate $72,000, and then what our balance is. And maybe if it's okay, Beth, I'll turn it over to you if you feel comfortable talking about some of your items. And then at the end, we kind of want to just talk about what role the Public Works Department is going to play, and then, what items need to be contracted out.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yep. So obviously, a lot of you guys know it's been going on for a year and a half. This isn't something that just happened, but now we're to the part where we're ready to install it. The equipment is already in, and it came in October, November. So we're ready to go. Eagle Heights, really easy. Fairly easy because it's blank, empty lot. So we don't have to worry about in amongst other equipment. Where it got tough is at Lake Eagle. We have 4 new pieces going in. That is compliant. We'll have an installer come in and professionally install them. We were assuming that they could kind of sleeve into a couple areas, thinking that would be fairly easy. When he came down and did a site eval and looked at it all, he's not doing that. He said he can't put compliant equipment in non-compliant base. So we said, okay, well now what? We figured we could pull that P-rock out, put new stuff in just that spot per some conversations we had last year with council and park board, so we could kind of try and get a couple more years to finish replacing all the P-rock. But it became clear very quickly that can't happen without just sitting on the equipment longer. So we looked at the funds that we still have in the capital outlay, and decided that it would be better at this point to go up to code and get all the P-rock out, put a new base in. We did talk several times and actually had Eagle Heights approved to be rubber chips instead of wood chips. But after we got deeper into it, and there was the red flags of rubber being hazardous waste, kids chewing on them, things that way, as well as the end of it after 5 to 8 years, how to dispose of them, that cost went up dramatically as well. You can't just throw them away. You got to bring them to hazardous waste fill. So long story short, we went through all the stuff with Brian and Andrew. We went through it with our installers and came up with the best case scenario would be to pull all the P-rock out, shut the park down for probably about 7 to 10 days, which is not ideal, but under the circumstances, we'd have to do it. Pull all the P-rock out, and then put in engineered wood fibers along with plastic timbers that would edge the whole park, so that we wouldn't have pieces piecemealed, where some is curb with P-rock, some is wood chips, so it'd all be safe for the kids, because right now it is not real safe if the kids fall. We talked with Brian and his crew, and Brian agreed that we should have the installers professionally install the wood, the timbers, so it's all in properly. We did get quotes from 2 different companies, one that would bring the wood chips in and deliver them and drop them off on semis in the parking lot or on the street. Brian's crew would install the chips, or having a company come down with the chips and then with a big blower, so to say, blow the chips in. The difference in the price of the 2, once we factor the install of everything too, we're recommending that we just hire the company to come and put them in, blow them in. They interlock how they're supposed to. They're up to code right away, versus Brian's crew having to go 3 inches, water it, let it settle, another 3 inches, there's this whole stage to it. as soon as they blow it in, the kids are ready to play. So that's kind of the beef of what's left. Some of the things that are left in the cost were already factored in with the grading, with timber. The pieces that weren't was the timber install and then the wood fibers at Lake Eagle. And we're just making that request to the council that we speed that part up and just get it all done right. If we're going to put new equipment in, let's do it all right the first time instead of having it kind of piecemealed in. And then also discussing what parts we hire out and what parts we try and do in-house. And I think some of that comes into what Brian's crew is available to do and feels comfortable doing. Anything I missed? That's the biggest battle we have right now is the removal of the P-rock. We've talked to Brunder, we've talked to Marilla, we've talked with, both have denied us. No, I mean, we got a couple, a little bit of loose stuff on the top, but then it's kind of chiseling away at the hard stuff. So it's trying to figure out what we do with it and where it gets disposed. And that's where I'm kind of...
Brian, why don't you come over here and use this? Would you feel okay? Did you get it? Do you want to try it again, maybe? Go to the podium, Brian, sorry. If you don't mind, please.
So our most recent discussion then for removing the P-rock was Public Works will remove it. We're gonna get the sentence to serve crew out to help move it away from the playground equipment out so we can get it with the skid loader and tool cat and stuff. We might rent another smaller piece of equipment to get closer and underneath. But we'll move that out and then we'll haul it out ourselves. And we can take it out to Brunder's. They have a stockpile area that we can dispose of it there. And there's some other fill areas that we can take it to. So I think that's kind of where we're at with the P-rock. We'll have get coordinated with the installers to remove it and wait until it's pretty close to that. So we got the sentence to serve people kind of set up. I think it's is it mid-April?
When I talked to him around lunchtime today, asking him for his timeline on when he would be here, they are looking at that end of April, the week of the 26th or that first week in May to come down here. We're kind of stuck on Eagle Heights with the road restrictions. If we need to bring fill in, Brunder can't bring any in until the road restrictions are lifted. So it's kind of a very fluid thing. They could come down sooner, based on their schedule and some complications that may come up this next month. But it's all fluid being that everything's outside.
Yeah. So what we did with the sentence to serve crew is we kind of scheduled it for both weeks actually that is. So if one doesn't work out and the other one does, we'll do the buckthorn removal, whichever doesn't work. So we're gonna kind of keep those guys scheduled for the two different time lengths.
Sure.
So that's kind of where we are with that.
And there will be two pieces of equipment that are coming out. For sure, one, the teeter-totter is, and I think Brian's gonna be sad to see it leave after fixing it 5 times, but so there's 2 pieces coming out. Benches will be coming out temporarily, and then they're gonna be putting different things back in. So just know that some stuff is coming out in the interim and then getting replaced in there and stuff. But I think the big thing, at least for us 3, that I've been working close on is if we're gonna do it, let's do it right the first time, then piecemeal things in as we go, especially if we have the funds to do so.
Do we have a use for that, Brian?
Pardon me?
The old P-rock, do we have a use for it in later, drain tile or anything
No,
like that?
it's not good for drain tile because it's so contaminated. It'll just plug the tile up right away. It's so, the top looks good, but you go down
It's
a couple inches.
pretty nasty.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. So it's pretty much fill still work for that.
And that was our big red flag when we walked through it even more, is like, there isn't much fall protection for the kids. So if they do fall off the monkey bars, there is no padding for them. So get it fixed before something happens to any of the kids.
Yeah, it gets pretty hard underneath there.
Yeah.
Packed. Is there
Well,
any
it
other
sounds as
questions?
though you've got everything kind of coordinated. We've got public works staff, we've got sentence to serve staff that can do it. We've got equipment that will handle this.
Yep, yeah, there's just one piece I was thinking, I'm gonna check to see about renting. It's just a smaller, it's like a skid, it's a bucket that you stand on, but it's small, so you can get into tighter spaces, like under the swings and underneath the
Swing slides and stuff.
that crawler, that.
Oh, the
dingo.
crawler bridge.
I think they call that a dingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we might get that for a day just to move the stuff out a little faster and.
The only thing that we didn't note on here that I think you have in the works, there is one tree marked with an X that will for sure be coming out. We'll be measuring to make sure that nothing else needs to come out, but I think some of those trees, if not all of them, are ash trees that might end up having to get looked at anyways with the possible stuff coming in town
Ash
too.
borer.
Yeah. So there will be some trees going, but know that it is in conversations as well to look at where new trees should be getting planted and what those trees should be too. So if you're down there right now and it's windy, you might get hit by one if they haven't been trimmed. So it is not a bad thing either.
Yep.
We got the tree man over here.
Are you treating any of the ash trees on there? Or ever asked whether you treat them?
Nope,
None.
nope. Cut them down.
So the whole park's gonna be empty?
Well, until we,
Vast majority of trees are.
well, we won't cut them all down at once. There's no disease right now or anything, so. But we will have to start planting trees in different spots and.
Can I add, if that's okay, if I jump in here? We are working with our community forestry person, and so we're working on that right now. She's doing a tree inventory, and that was why we initially got set up with community forestry to help us with this emerald ash borer and get a plan. And so we're still working with her on that. And I mean, we've talked a little bit informally about some of the treatment options, how much it costs, and so we're working on that.
What is Mankato doing with their trees, ash trees?
They're cutting down 200 a year. They got roughly 2,500 ash trees, like, documented. So it's like 33% of the town. They're cutting down 200 a year. They're treating a third of them. And it's every 2 years. And for the private person, it's like $10 a management. I think Mankato got it for $4.50 an inch for the trees, to treat them. Honestly, it's a shame to cut every single one of the ash trees down. I mean, your entire park's ash trees.
And how often do they gotta treat them and,
Every 2 years. They say they can go 3 years.
yeah,
They say, but
yeah.
every 2 years.
Yeah, and like our ash trees down there, they're so old and, I mean,
A lot of them.
half of them are,
life cycle is something
yeah,
else.
half of them are, there's so many dead branches in them. By the time we trim the dead branches out, they're,
There's just been even your boulevard trees too, and
Yep.
resident trees. There's a lot of trees in town that are gonna be gone.
yep, so.
And I think when we talk to the trees, we're talking the ones especially that are like in amongst the equipment. That would be more in the way of new equipment coming in, they're old and half cut down, or they just give us a little bit more padding and we still have the perimeter ones. So I know there was a little bit of a shock last year when we did the trimming, but it was overdue. So it was a huge shock for the people when they went down there and actually saw them as slim as they were, but they should have been that slim a while back.
I would like to see the ones you at least trim and try to keep up to maybe think about keeping, but we already spent the money killing them trees. Maybe inject a few of the trees, premier trees, the ones that are by a shelter or used for shade or something. I understand, we're in a losing battle.
Yep.
We all know that.
And,
There's no
Yep.
saving.
and we're trimming trees up, we got it in the budget to trim trees up every year
Yeah.
and stuff, so and,
Everybody's in a losing battle.
Yep, yep.
The only problem, you're fighting a losing battle when you're already 5 years behind. You
Yep.
don't even know.
Yeah.
When Michigan, when it first came down, their acceptable work method to cut down these trees was to push them over with the front end loader because they're so dangerous after X amount of years.
Yep.
They just literally fall where they want to go.
Yeah.
I didn't let the people even touch them.
So I guess the two pieces would just be for your guys' blessing to proceed with how we have it to getting Lake Eagle, our city park, up to code with base material, which will for sure include removal of one tree, potentially two, 4 new pieces of equipment coming in, a few things moving around, but then a collaboration between Public Works and our several different installers and contractors to work together and make it all happen in the next 4 to 8 weeks. 3 to 8 weeks.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion to that effect?
I will.
I'll second.
Beth has it very well under control.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Yeah, it sounds like things are nicely laid out and got a good handle on everything. So if there's no other discussion, I'll look for all in favor of the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. The next item we have is street sweeping bids. And Brian, I can turn that over to you.
Yeah, it's just kind of informational. Got a street sweeping bid for Wilkins.
Brian, would you mind talking? I'm sorry. You can try that mic again, see if it works. It might.
Is there a battery?
State your name and address.
Thank you, Brian.
So I have in the packet street sweeping bids, bid from Wilkins. Quite a few years ago, we kind of decided just to go with Wilkins for street sweeping. We've had different companies, and we've had problems with some different companies, so we kind of went with this. So, but now they're starting just to do the $95 an hour rate. So they're figuring 39 hours, but they said like, so if they come in and it's 36 hours or whatever, that's what they'll charge us for. So, you know, it could be a little less than this. He's saying that 39 hours is a high estimate. And that's what all the other companies are doing also, is just doing hourly rates. And I checked with the other sweeping companies, and they're at $95 an hour. And but we've had very good luck with Wilkins. So it's just in your packet to review and approve and to get them street swept.
Brian, what did you guys do last year then? Because I saw it was that you guys did it last year.
Last year we did have the newer piece of equipment for the tool cat, so we thought we'd try sweeping with that. We did buy it to do like just some spot sweeping and stuff like that, but we wanted to try it to see if we could, you know, maybe sweep the town with it and stuff. But it's not the right piece of equipment to do the whole town.
So in theory then, midsummer, if we have issues that have heavy rains and a lot of sand, they can, residents could contact the city and ask if it's massive amounts of sand in the way.
Yeah, then we can go out with our tool cat and sweep up certain areas. Or if we have problems with, contractors, if there's something, obviously we'll charge a contractor for going out, and if we have to clean the streets up for that reason, different things like that. Or a parking lot gets bad, or before Tater Tate's parade or something, we might
Get some stuff cleaned up.
we could hit the parade route with the tool cat. So it was just a trial and error deal with that.
I can't believe you do the whole city with that tool cat.
Yeah. So it's not ideal. So that's why we're gonna go back with the professional street sweepers.
Have you ever priced sweepers out?
Price them out?
Yeah.
It's too high maintenance of a piece of equipment for us.
Or a little town?
Yeah, so.
I was just thinking of Mankato's getting rid of one or something.
Yeah, it's, we have other high maintenance equipment that we have to take care of, so I don't know if we want to take another one on.
Yeah, there you go. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Any other questions in regard to the street sweeping price from Wilkins? If there are none, I'd look for a motion to approve that bid.
I'll motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. Item 10 is a proposal for environmental mosquito management program. So we had Clark Environmental here last month, kind of gave us some information in regard to mosquito spraying. There's a contract or an agreement in our packet today. I don't know, Jennifer, if you have anything you'd like to lead in on this item?
You know, I guess just a little background that the city in the past has been doing the bi-weekly treatments at the quoted cost, if the city goes ahead with this, is $648.90 per treatment. So that's what we've been doing is the bi-weekly treatments. I know they also quoted us 15 weekly treatments, but I guess I would defer to Brian what he thinks. I know in the past we've, at least as far as the history I have, we've done the bi-weekly treatments. So. And we do have funds set aside for the treatments. I know we did the budget, trying to remember now, but I assume we just planned for the bi-weekly treatments. We didn't talk about moving to weekly treatments, but it's something they included as another option.
Are there any preferences that the council might have? So option 1 would be the 9 treatments. That's typically probably what we've been doing, if I'm correct. So that would be more of our budgeted amount. Option 2 would raise that to 15 weekly treatments throughout the community during the summer. I guess for my personal opinion, I don't know that I see any difference in the spraying. I'm not real excited about spraying for mosquitoes. He did have some good information last month. I thought that was good. Made me feel a little bit better about the material, but I still can't be outside at dusk at my house, even when we spray. So I guess I just don't know that we get necessarily any bang for our buck with it.
When's the last time we haven't sprayed? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. It's been quite some time, hasn't it?
I'm just.
While Brian's walking up, Mayor,
Just say never mind.
I reached out to roughly 35 residents because in this case, for me, I can say what I want to say because I have a 3-year-old who gets bit by mosquitoes and his eyes swell shut. You know, so for me, like 45 deep, he has it, and the doctors have said that. So you know, for me, it's like the more the better. But being that this is kind of a community-wide thing, I wanted to know what residents wanted to have. You know, so I reached out to roughly 35, and some people might have personal objectives, but 21 of the 35 all right off the bat said option 2 if there's funding to do it, because some did notice a difference, or most of them did notice a difference, especially in their front yard versus their back. But a lot of them said, you know, the summer quality of life, let's go outside, we want to play, but the mosquitoes just carry you away. You know, we were outside last weekend, and they were already out biting us. Some of them have kids that, like my son, that get allergic to them, and they just can't be outside. So in their mind, they didn't want to see what they called even a roller coaster effect, where you could tell right after they sprayed, and then 5, 6, 7 days later, you could tell that they were coming back full force, and there was a lag in them. But I just told them that would be their voice here, saying that, again, 21 out of the 35 that responded all said option 2 if funds allow for it.
Yeah, we started spraying back in the 90s. We bought our own sprayer, and we'd spray ourselves in the early mornings and stuff like that. And I don't know, I'm kind of sold on it because, one, I live at the lake. We have us and the neighbors spray all the time. Mosquitoes, you never kill them all. They hatch all the time. But you'll notice you'll notice a change, and I think you'll notice a change if you quit spraying. And when we did it ourselves, you know, we had the compost site down there, and the mosquitoes were so thick down there, we'd take the sprayer down there and back in there before we'd start chipping. And you could tell, I mean, right away, we could chip down there. But, yeah, but like we did that for until I think about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, we started contracting it out because our equipment got older, and we were just spraying early in the mornings before work and stuff, and instead of in the evenings and stuff like that. So
I'm just not sold on it, but
yeah.
that's just me.
Can I ask Joel, what do they do in Mankato?
They do their own, they're called pellets, called parcel, and we go around to all the retention ponds, and every 12 feet, throw out one of these pellets, but these pellets are like $8 a piece. It's extremely expensive. They may get us for like $60,000
Oh, wow.
to do the area. In my personal opinion, we got a lot of regen council that we're doing this. So, that's just my personal opinion.
I know there were some residents that were saying that about the chemicals and stuff. What I see, and I've seen it a lot more, of people using foggers. You know, go to Menards and get stuff, and I just worry that if we don't do something, the residents are going to use more foggers and more chemicals that might not be as good as. I mean, they're going to be worse than what we might be getting. They might work better because they fog in high density areas and stuff, but I don't think you're ever going to get away from someone spraying something.
Jennifer, do you know what we budgeted for?
Yeah, I was looking
mosquito?
back. We budgeted for the biweekly treatments because it, you know, at the point when the budget was set, there was no discussion that I recalled of anybody asking for weekly treatments. So that's what was plugged into the budget.
All right, any other concerns, questions? Do we need to take action on this right now? I think you have the agreement here, correct?
Let's see. Not sure if it has a deadline on it. Let's see. I don't see that, you know, an expiration date on here on the proposal, but I suppose they're gonna wanna get us into their schedule sooner rather than later, but, I would think, you know, if we held off a meeting, we just communicate with them that we're still thinking about it, I think that would be fine too.
What's the council's wishes in regard to the agreement?
I personally, I'm torn both ways. I can see at times where I question if it's working at all, and I can see times where I'm like, we need to do this more often. So that's why I reached out to others to get feedback. So I wouldn't say I have a hard wish one way or another because I'm just used to spraying 45 deep when I walk out the door every day. But if we don't, I feel like if we don't do either option, I feel like we at least need to treat something, at least in the parks and things like that, where there's heavy amount of kids and non-residential that will treat it themselves.
I think you were right before when you said that if we don't do it, people are gonna be using stuff that's 2-3 times worse and overdoing it.
Yep.
I guess I'd like to see it sprayed every other week.
Well, I'll look for a motion
I'll make that motion.
for the option 1, the 9 bi-weekly treatments. And that, again, would be what we've got budgeted, So if we want to have continued conversations in regard to if we up the frequency, I think, we should discuss that then, in August at our budget sessions. I know, we can maybe have residents kind of keep tabs on how things are going then, if we move forward bi-weekly, see what kind of results we're getting. So we have a motion to move forward with option 1. Is there a second?
I'll second that. The only thing I would add is just to make sure that the company that's doing it is able to drive through our parks and our trails to make sure that those walkers and stuff that especially walk right away in the morning or at, right at dusk, dawn, don't get carried away. So making sure that we can get to some of those areas. But I would second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Beth, when you asked the people about if people are wanting to do this, did you ask them if they still apply bug spray? I mean, I know that's. Do they still apply bug spray when they're outside, or?
That I don't know. I would assume so within reason. I know when we get to with some of these people that I asked, they are friends of mine, and we all have, I think, 3 bottles in our bags and we're with them and stuff. But I think the big thing is, too, is just especially us knowing when they come by and kind of logging, like, okay, I don't notice a change or I do, or things that way to know how effective it is. And everybody's yard is going to be different based on where it is and where they're going by and stuff, too. Because, that would make a difference. If they're applying bug spray, they're not going to feel it.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries. Item 11 on our new items. Working through, this is a Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation grant commitment. Again, this would be for the Music on Parkway events. And so Jennifer, I'll let you lead into this.
Great. So this is a good thing. It's fun to have good things on the agenda too. No, I'm just kind of kidding. We've had a lot of good things on the agenda, but this is that Music on Parkway that everybody's been anxiously awaiting with COVID-19 that was put on hold. But basically what you're being asked to do tonight is just to approve a revised grant agreement. The committee was able to increase the scope of the Music on Parkway. And so we initially were awarded $5,000. Now they've increased it to $10,000. There's a 25% cash match. So the city will have to provide $5,000. We do have funds set aside in the budget for that purpose. And then we'll do another 25% in-kind match. So the committee is actively planning performances beginning May, June, July, and August. And so really nothing else has changed, but with the packet here tonight, you just see a revised grant agreement and updated budget. And so we just need approval to enter into that, and I'll send that back to Smith, and then the committee will just keep on planning and hopefully be able to execute some performances really soon.
Any questions from the council?
Where in Parkway are they at then? Are they going to be in the Legion or in that grassy area that's for sale, or what are we looking at?
So no, it's a change of plans basically. It is still going to be Music on Parkway, but it's going to be on 3rd Street. At the intersection of 3rd and Parkway, the stage will face north towards the railroad tracks, and the Legion's driveways will be open, and Dave's entrances, that alley by the water tower, will be open. So it'll be in that area with the stage facing towards the railroad. So it's still, on Parkway, but on 3rd Street. Right.
Any other questions? I'd look for a motion to approve the revised grant commitment letter.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. Item 12, renting out the council chambers. Page 114 of your packet. Jennifer?
Mayor and City Council, as you know, with COVID-19, we had suspended renting out the council chambers. We've been receiving some calls lately asking if the space is available for rent for both nonprofits and private events. And so this is on the agenda tonight to get your approval to resume renting out this space. I have talked to, when I put together the memo, I had reached 2 cities, now I've talked to 3, and all 3 have now resumed renting out their community rooms, similar to the council chambers here. But the one thing that all 3 had noted was that they do have some capacity restrictions. And then I guess my recommendation would be that when we have the rental agreement completed by the person renting the room, we just remind them that they would be responsible for, their guests and making sure they're complying with, any executive order that might be in place or guidelines from Minnesota Department of Health or CDC. So, but we're not actively monitoring that if it's held during after hours, so they'd be responsible for policing themselves. So with that, I guess I'm just asking the council to authorize that the council chambers be rented. We can resume renting those out with, any appropriate restrictions, and we'll make sure we attach that to the rental agreement for those who wish to use it.
How have we done this in the past as far as, some of the furniture in here, the city staff, like move chairs, add things. Now we've got some additional kind of components in here. We've got some electronics. How have we charged a fee for some staff time to get things kind of cleaned out and put back, or?
So we do charge a rental fee, and so that should cover that. We don't have, a cleaner come in right after it's rented, so that should cover staff time. But that item right there, we're going to have to figure something out. Long term, we're going to need to have something more permanent in here so that we can have that enclosed, and users of the room can't get into it, because little kids, I can see that being a magnet for wanting to play with that. And that. So in the temporary, we can remove it. It's not recommended. We can remove it though. It's not recommended, but that's what we'd have to do. We'd have to pull it back into, just be very careful when we're pulling out the cords and put it into the front office, so.
Okay.
I know the Lions Club, I'm a member of that. I know that they've asked about, places to meet, and there's just groups in the community that have no place to meet. And if there's ways we could accommodate them and, still comply with the executive order, some of the other recommendations, I thought it was worth bringing up to the council tonight.
Yeah, I've got no problem, continuing it. It's just now that we've got kind of some additional pieces that we need to address. If we've got storage for everything, once everything's put away, as long as we have a plan for that, I don't really have any concerns from my part renting it out. Any other council thoughts on that? If there are none, I'd look for a motion then to resume renting the council chambers for private events.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. Almost to the end of the new business. Community forestry member request for 2021-22.
So right now, we've got our first, this is a new program that was put into place, the AmeriCorps of Community Forestry. So we were fortunate to get Vin. She has been our part-time community forestry person, and she's been working on tree inventory with the primary, purpose of helping us try to get a plan in place to deal with emerald ash borer. And so she's been doing work on that. She's also been working with Public Works on buckthorn removal, and just some other things in relation to trees in our community. So VIN, we do have an option. There's no cost to the city if the city would choose to have a full-time member. I had selected a part-time being it was our first year, and I didn't know how much work we would have for the person. And then I didn't want to create a burden for Brian, his department, or for myself in, coming up with projects for them. So I think kind of that part-time position is a good fit for Eagle Lake for the size of our community. I have talked to Vin, and she's not sure of her plans and if she would be able to continue. But we would also, have the opportunity of having a new member. But I do feel that there has been value in that, doing a tree inventory, we didn't have that done. And as we work, forward on our EAB plan, I feel like we're going to continue to need help with that. So I feel like there could be a use for another part-time member. So I guess from a staff perspective, I would recommend that we pursue another member for the next service year, which would start in September of 2021 and go through August of 2022. And there's no cost to the city. I guess there's the cost in the sense of staff time in that I have to meet weekly with our service member, and then Brian, with the buckthorn removal and some of those things he has to coordinate. So there's a time component on his end. So.
Well, I think just the fact that emerald ash borer is found in St. Clair is kind of alert enough that, again, we're 5 years behind or whatever on the planning, but it seems like it would be something that we should keep, whatever resources that we can to do this. And so if it's not Vin, you said they had other.
Yep, they'll advertise. Yes.
And Jennifer, I assume that these guys would be trained on the EAB and what to do and help educate the residents, because I think,
right.
I heard some of Mankato's plans or things like that, or read the newspaper article, and I think a lot of people are going to have a rude awakening with what could happen, and there's going to be a lot of very frustrated people. But also you have the flip side of new houses or people that have trees that are needing to come down. Of what do you replace them with? So I know Vin has been helpful trying to refer to us to what to get. So with the help of Brian and his crew, having kind of that 1-2 punch, I feel would be good too, to continue having.
Right. If we don't have a community forestry person helping us with the EAB, I don't know who else is going to do it. That's where the position I feel we're in. I don't know if Brian's department has the time to be doing that. Just doing the tree inventory alone, I think, is a huge time savings for us and something we wouldn't have gotten done. So I think that's tremendously helpful.
She's helped you, but maybe not helped you with the buckthorn, but it looks really good down there. I will say that. Bare, but good.
So if the council wishes to maintain AmeriCorps member for forestry, we'd need a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Item 14 is the item that I added to our new business, and this is the Casey's off-sale license. And I don't know if you have any additional information for our packet, or if
There is no additional information as far as paperwork, but I know Carrie in the past puts it on the consent agenda, and it's a 3-2 malt liquor license, and I believe it's $25. They did not renew for background. Casey's did not renew for the 2019-2020 year or 2021, but now they're applying for that again, and John is in the process of doing the background check, and so we just would like to help work with Casey's and get it approved contingent upon that background check coming back. So,
okay,
with
then
that,
we just need a motion from
Yes.
the council then to continue working with Casey's and approve this license contingent upon John's background check.
right.
I'd look for a motion to that effect.
You have it.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. Moving on to pay equity compliance, page 120 of the packet. Jennifer, I'll turn this over to you.
Great. Mayor and City Council, I just wanted to let you know that the city did, every 3 years, I should back up, has to do a pay equity report just to make sure that, we're paying fairly and we're addressing gender-based wage disparities. So we've submitted that report. It was due in January, and it reflects the data that was in place as of the end of 2020. So that came back good. One thing I wanted to mention with this, so pay equity addresses gender-based wage disparities, but I did note in my memo, not all wage disparities. I know since I've been here, we have not undertaken a compensation study. There's different ways you can do it. You can do informal compensation studies, or you could hire a consultant to do a more formal study. So I thought it's something we should at least start thinking about as we enter into the 2022 budget. If we are interested in doing a compensation study, we'd want to budget some funds for that. So just something to start thinking about right now. I think it's important that we just make sure that some studies done, whether it's an informal, just working with the COG, surveying other cities, or doing a more in-depth compensation study, which costs more money, obviously, just to make sure that we continue attracting quality employees, retention, and motivating our employees. So no actions required this evening, just something to start thinking about as we head into the 2022 budget planning process.
Maybe that's an item that we can add to a future work session to discuss, kind of gather
Sure
up a little
can.
bit more information. Item 3, you had a couple of items that maybe we wanted to talk about, so I would put that, then in a
Okay.
work session agenda. We can discuss that. So the next item then, Mr. Terrell, we're almost to the end. So if I see you have lots of family here, and if you would like to have a photo op, we do have a plaque commemorating your service. And I'll just read it, so anyone listening at home, and then I'll have you stand up here and we can do photos and whatnot. In thankful appreciation to Dennis Terrell, recognizing 19 years of dedicated service to the city of Eagle Lake, serving as a city council member from January 1986 to December of 1994, and then from January 2011 to April 2021.
Why did I do that?
So we're just thankful for your service, Denny. And, we're grateful for everything you've done for the community. And hopefully this is a little token for you. And I'm sure we'll be in touch, talking to you here and there.
Good chance.
You want one with the whole council? Usually it's just me. You guys can get a photo once in a while.
You guys could do some nice posing. I think that would be nice.
Face? You want faces?
I want faces.
Oh, wait, Garrett, never mind.
Yeah. Garrett, you keep yours on. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Denny.
Thanks, Danny.
Do you have any words to tell us, Denny?
Oh, keep going forward.
Easy.
I'd really like you to, on that driving course out there, keep pushing forward. I know it's a different economy now. I can only expect that, the judges will see it in the city's favor. Because that can be huge for Eagle Lake. And if it takes some tax increment financing to get that thing going again just get it done. Because the long-term thing for Eagle Lake would be huge. And we put a lot of work into that. Took a lot of grief. And a whole lot of grief. And it wasn't, well, you know the story behind that. But anyway, just keep moving forward. And I'll miss it.
Well, I'm sure we'll have some projects that we'll need you to work on.
I've got some out to the farm too for you.
So thanks, Denny. Enjoy your Monday nights, unless you have something else planned. But
I'll drive by and honk.
thank you for everything you've done for Eagle Lake. It's been well worth it. Upcoming city council work session, again, just kind of keeping that on the front burner. City administrator report, if there's something that you want to bring forward, Jennifer.
You know, not really. I guess I just put it on the agenda, wanting everybody to know if you start seeing some activity going on, don't get alarmed. It's not the project actually starting. It's just some of that private utility work. And we did mail a notice out to all the property owners affected by the project to give them advance notice as well. So that's all I have. And I'm going to miss working with you, Denny. And I hope you still call City Hall and check in with us.
You won't get so many emails.
So we do have a vacancy as of tonight then for the council, and I know I've been kind of checking around for people that are interested. There might be some sitting in the council chambers tonight that are interested. So as far as the city council is concerned, the question would be, how do you want to proceed with filling that vacancy? I believe the League of Minnesota Cities just says it can be a mayoral appointment. But if we want to advertise and see if there's residents that are interested to fill the remainder of Mr. Terrell's term, we should get that out there, and that can be a discussion for later this month as well. But I'd like to know from the council how you'd like to proceed. We've got new council members here that are kind of formulating kind of the next generation of the council, and so I'd put that out to you all to let me know how you want to proceed to fulfill or fill the vacancy.
I know I don't have any input on it, but that guy right there has been coming to a lot of council meetings and very interested and very knowledgeable. I'll just throw my 2 cents that way.
It's always good to have people that are interested, and so we appreciate, residents coming and taking part. Thoughts? Desires? So can we, Jennifer, get just a notification
Sure.
out? I don't know if you do an email blast.
Absolutely, yep. Facebook, email.
It can be simple application. I think we, for our boards, and there is an application form for boards that would probably be the most useful one.
Okay.
And then we can take a look at it as a council if we want to do like a work session or something. Take a look at any of the people that have expressed interest.
My only wish might be more if we can speed this process up a little bit, where if we're going to have a special session in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, can we get all the applications by then, look at it, and then make the motion, or whether it's that night or May 1st, so we can get this person in
Right.
and running with us right away.
I think ultimately that would be the best thing, is that if we can have them, on board for our first meeting in May. So.
Well, if it, not to interrupt you, but if it works, we could just advertise tomorrow, and then we'll have a full 2 weeks by the end of the day on the 20th if we get applications back in. And so I think that'd be in line with what you guys are envisioning for a schedule.
All right, then we'll set you loose on that, Jennifer, if
Yep.
you can make that
Sounds
happen.
good.
Any council member reports?
I had a community ed and rec meeting in March. A lot of just updates and things like that. I guess the only thing worth noting is every year they do a Spirit of the Youth Award. And they gave it out to two, so they announced the winners and stuff, and there's, I think, 2 youth groups, or 1 individual, 1 group, and then I think 4, I don't have the sheet with me, but I think 4 adults. So that banquet will be held in May, where they'll be presented to them. Otherwise, Community Ed and Rec is just plugging forth, and we're gonna be working with them here come the summer with Rec on the Go, moving it around with parks, and things like that. So we still have exciting things with Community Ed that we'll be working on as well.
Excellent. Anyone else?
We did have our EDA meeting, was it last week, Jennifer?
Yes.
We didn't really go over much. We talked about maybe a firehouse going up, a newer one, but, you know, that's just talk right now. And I think Jim was talking about maybe doing in that, where that parcel is right next to it. And he was just wondering if that was even a possibility. And that's really all we talked about that day, so.
Okay. I've been attending MAPO meetings, and for you newer members, I don't know if you're familiar with MAPO. MAPO is the Mankato Area Planning Organization, and this organization deals with a lot of the transportation and roadway types of projects in our region. So Jennifer is a member of the technical advisory panel, and then I'm on the policy board for MAPO. They're putting together their new kind of projects to kind of look into for the future, and so if anyone has ideas for transportation-related projects, I've given Jennifer a few ideas. These can also include like bike trails. So some of the things, there's federal dollars that come into the area that go through MAPO that get spent, and MAPO will expend those dollars. So I've kind of thrown out if we can get on the list to have a connection from the city of Eagle Lake to the Secaucus Trail, a complete bike trail connection that would involve city resources and then county resources to get out there. An overpass, cloverleaf, whatever we want to design at Casey's is kind of a long-term thought process. My thinking is like County Road 13 or the Highway 13 in Savage, Minnesota has a very unique overpass system there. So if anyone's ever up there, take a look at that. I think that would work well at Casey's. Reconstruction or construction of what some of the older people might know as Roller Coaster Road. I don't know what the designation is, 511th Street? 211th Street. The very southern border, the minimum maintenance road. We should be looking at that as a long-term planning project. And then our sidewalk connection from the end of Agency Street down to 211th as well to tie that together. So those are the things I'd like to look at as far as future connectivity and transportation projects that we can throw on the radar. MAPO staff will review those and kind of rank some of those things to feasibility and cost and things like that. So if you have ideas for transportation things, just let me know or let Jennifer know that we can get on the list. Okay, anything else then? You'll see the upcoming meetings.
Nope, not yet.
Yes.
Name and address?
Was there a set time and date for the upcoming workshop meeting?
We're
Yep.
thinking sometime that week of April 26th. It kind of hinges on when we get the report back, but we're thinking, I got an email late this afternoon saying we get it back by the Friday, I think is the 23rd, so. it's
Okay, you'll put that
out. And then we talk about the leaf vac at that,
Yep,
or the
yep,
whole leaf
yep.
collection at that meeting as
Okay.
well.
So I'll give you an update on Regency Mobile Home Park meter. Got that in today. Andrew and I started to install it late today. We have to wait for the technician to come and program it and stuff. We put the sensor in and mounted it in the control box and everything, so we're just waiting. I called him today. They're gonna schedule it, and it sounds like Friday he'll come through and be able to program it and get it all calibrated.
Yeah, unfortunately, they had March. It's always the month of such fluctuations. So
Yeah, so a bonus.
okay, very good. Yeah, and we'll talk about leaf vac items at one of those upcoming meetings.
I want my 2 granddaughters to come up here. Now, this is what we do when we say meeting adjourned. Ready? Meeting adjourned.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?